The bridge of the Soul's Pride was alive with activity. Lights that had never been there before were blinking on control panels. New screens were appearing on workstations. Hyunwoo moved from station to station, trying to understand what was happening to his ship. "Captain," he said, his voice filled with amazement. "These systems are incredible. The power output is beyond anything we've ever seen. But I don't understand how they work." Dongwoo watched his engineer work. Hyunwoo was the best technical mind in the fleet, but even he looked confused by what he was seeing. "Are they dangerous?" the captain asked. "I don't think so, sir. They seem to be defensive systems mostly, but they're connected to something outside the ship. It's like they're talking to other systems somewhere else." So-min looked up from her tactical station. Her face was pale with shock. "Captain, you need to see this. Our weapon systems have changed completely. I'm showing energy weapons that could cut through a moon. Shield generators that could protect an entire planet. This can't be right." Dongwoo moved to look over her shoulder. The tactical display showed weapon systems that belonged in science fiction stories, not on a real battleship. "Run a diagnostic. Make sure these readings are real." "I've run 3 diagnostics, sir. Everything checks out. These systems are real, and they're all online." At the communications station, Yejin was overwhelmed by the amount of data flowing into her systems. "Captain, I'm receiving transmissions from across the galaxy, but they're not coming from human ships. These are alien languages, but somehow our computers are translating them perfectly." "What are they saying?" "Most of them are automated signals. Old messages, maybe thousands of years old. But, Captain, they're all saying the same thing. They're warnings about aggressive species, about empires that conquer and destroy other civilizations." Dongwoo felt a cold understanding begin to form in his mind. "Show me the translation of the most recent message." Yejin's fingers flew over her controls. "Here it is, sir. Warning to all peaceful species. The Vorthok Empire approaches your territory. They scan first, then attack. Prepare defenses. The network will assist those who prove worthy." On the Shadow Hunter, Captain Veltar was becoming frustrated. The human ship had stopped responding to their scans. Worse, it was now generating so much energy that it was interfering with their own systems. "Kethvar, what's wrong with our sensors?" he demanded. The science officer was frantically working at his station. "Sir, I don't understand it. The human ship is generating massive amounts of energy, but it shouldn't be possible with their primitive technology. Could they have been hiding their real capabilities?" "No, sir. I scanned them thoroughly. Their reactors were basic fusion systems. Nothing that could generate this kind of power." Veltar's 4 arms drummed against his chair. In all his years of conquest, he had never encountered anything like this. Could they have activated some kind of emergency system? "Perhaps, sir. But I'm also detecting strange energy patterns from the direction of their home system. It's like something is connecting all their ships together." On the Soul's Pride, the awakening continued. Hyunwoo discovered that the ship's computer core had expanded somehow. New processing units were online that had never existed before. Or maybe they had always been there, hidden and waiting. "Captain, I think I understand what happened," he said. "Our ship was built with technology we found on Mars, right? Materials and components that our scientists couldn't fully explain?" "That's classified information," Dongwoo replied carefully. "Sir, I think the technology is much more advanced than we realized. The alien scan didn't just read our systems. It activated them. Like the scan was a key that unlocked hidden capabilities." So-min interrupted from her station. "Captain, I'm detecting similar energy signatures from other human ships. Every vessel in the fleet that was built with the Mars technology is showing the same changes." "How many ships is that?" "All of our newest battleships, sir. About 40% of the fleet." Dongwoo realized the implications. If every ship with the Mars technology was experiencing the same awakening, then humanity's military capabilities had just increased beyond imagination. But he still didn't understand what had caused it or what it meant. Yejin had been quietly working at her station, trying to make sense of the flood of information. "Captain, I think I found something important. These transmissions I'm receiving, they're not random. They're part of some kind of network, a communication system that spans the entire galaxy. A network built by who? I'm not sure, sir. The messages call them the predecessors. But according to these transmissions, they built this network to help younger species defend themselves against aggressive empires." Dongwoo felt pieces of a puzzle beginning to fit together. The Mars ruins. The technology we found there, it was left by these predecessors? It looks that way, sir. And I think the Vorthak scan activated our connection to their network. Hyunwoo looked up from his engineering station with excitement. Captain, if that's true, then we're not just connected to other human ships. We're connected to defensive systems across the entire galaxy. Every world that the predecessors helped defend. The implications were staggering. Humanity had stumbled onto a galaxy-spanning defense network built by an ancient civilization. A network designed specifically to help species defend themselves against exactly the kind of empire the Vorthak represented. Back on the Shadow Hunter, Kethvar was beginning to panic. His scans of the human ship were showing impossible readings. Power levels that no known technology could generate. Weapon signatures that didn't match any known physics. Captain, something is very wrong, he reported. The human vessel is showing capabilities that violate several laws of physics. Either our sensors are malfunctioning or they have technology far beyond anything in the galaxy. Veltar's confidence was shaken. The Vorthak Empire ruled through technological superiority. They had never encountered a species that could match their advanced systems. Could they be using some kind of illusion technology? Making themselves appear more powerful than they are? I don't think so, sir. These energy readings are real, and I'm detecting similar signatures from other locations in their territory. Whatever they've activated, it's not limited to just this one ship. On the Soul's Pride, Yejin made another discovery. Captain, I'm receiving a direct message. It's addressed specifically to us. From who? The message says it's from the network itself. Here's what it says. Greetings, children of Earth. You have proven yourselves worthy by showing restraint in the face of aggression. The Vorthak scan has activated your connection to the predecessor network. You now have access to defensive technologies that have protected peaceful species for millions of years. Use this power wisely. Dongwoo sat back in his chair. Humanity had just inherited the legacy of an ancient civilization. Technology that could defend them against any aggressor. But with that power came responsibility. Sir, So-min said quietly, what do we do now? The Vorthak ship is still out there. They're probably planning to attack us. Dongwoo looked at the tactical display. The alien ship looked small and primitive compared to the capabilities his ship now possessed. With the network's technology, he could probably destroy the Vorthak vessel with ease. But the message had mentioned restraint. The predecessors had given humanity this power not for conquest but for defense. How he used it would determine whether humanity was truly worthy of the gift they had received. Hyunwoo, can you determine the full extent of our new capabilities? I'm working on it, sir. But from what I can see, we could probably disable their ship without destroying it. The network seems designed to neutralize threats, not eliminate them completely. Good. Yejin, can you communicate with the network? Ask for guidance on how to handle this situation? I'll try, sir. As the crew of the Soul's Pride worked to understand their new reality, similar scenes were playing out on human ships across the galaxy. Captains and crews were discovering that their vessels had capabilities they had never dreamed of. But they were also learning that with great power came great responsibility. The Vorthak Empire had made a critical error. Their standard scanning procedure, designed to assess the weaknesses of primitive species, had instead awakened humanity's connection to the most advanced defensive network in the galaxy. The balance of power in the galaxy was about to shift dramatically. And it had all started with a simple scan that revealed far more than the Vorthak had ever intended to discover. The deep space around the outer edge of human territory was quiet. Too quiet for Captain Veltar's liking. The Vorthak Empire had sent his ship, the Shadow Hunter, to scout this area because their long-range sensors had picked up strange energy readings. Now, drifting in the darkness between stars, he could see why. A massive ship hung in space ahead of them. It was dark and silent like a sleeping giant. The vessel was huge, easily 3 times the size of his own ship. Its hull was thick and covered in heavy armor plates. Strange markings covered its surface and weapon ports dotted its sides like angry eyes. Captain, called out his science officer, Kethvar, from his station, I'm reading life signs aboard that vessel. The ship appears to be functional, just powered down to minimal systems. Veltar leaned forward in his command chair. His purple skin gleamed under the bridge lights and his forearms moved across the control panels with practiced ease. The Vorthak had conquered dozens of species across the galaxy. They knew how to handle first contact situations. Any response to our hails? He asked. None, sir. They're either ignoring us or their communication systems are too primitive to understand our signals. Veltar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. This was always the same story. New species thought they were tough until they met the Vorthak Empire. This ship looked impressive, but appearances could be deceiving. The Vorthak had learned long ago that the bigger the ship, the more likely it was to be full of empty space and weak technology. "Begin standard scanning procedures," he ordered. "I want to know everything about this vessel. Crew size, technology level, weapons capabilities, everything." On the human ship, Captain Dongwu sat in his command chair aboard the Soul's Pride. He was a calm man with short black hair and steady brown eyes. Around him, his bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. They had detected the alien ship hours ago, but they were following strict first contact protocols. "Sir," said So Min from the tactical station. "The alien vessel is beginning some kind of scan. Their energy beam is hitting our outer hull." Dongwu nodded. So Min was his best tactical officer, a sharp woman who never missed details. She had spotted the alien ship long before it had noticed them. "Let them scan," he said quietly. "We need to learn about them too." At the engineering station, Hyunwoo frowned at his displays. He was the chief engineer, a man who understood every system on the ship better than anyone else. Something was odd about the alien scan. It was more advanced than he had expected. "Captain," he called out, "this scan is different. It's not just reading our surface. It's trying to map our internal systems." Yejin, the communications officer, looked up from her station. She was young but skilled, and she had been monitoring alien communication frequencies since they arrived. "Sir, I'm picking up their internal communications. They're speaking about us like we're primitives. They think we're no threat." Dongwu allowed himself a small smile. Let them think that. Humanity had learned the hard way that it was better to be underestimated than overestimated. The Soul's Pride looked like a normal battleship from the outside, but it carried secrets that even Dongwu didn't fully understand. Back on the Shadow Hunter, Kethvar was excited by what he was seeing. The scan was working perfectly. The alien ship's technology was interesting but clearly inferior to Vorthak systems. "Captain, I'm getting excellent readings," he reported. "Their power source appears to be basic fusion reactors. Their weapons are kinetic projectiles and simple energy beams. Their armor is thick but primitive metal alloys." Veltar laughed. "Typical new species. They build big ships with thick armor, because they don't know how to build proper shields or advanced weapons." "What about their crew?" "Bipedal humanoids, sir. Carbon-based life forms. I'm reading about 300 crew members. Their brain patterns suggest average intelligence, nothing special." "Perfect," Veltar said. "Send a message to High Command. Tell them we've found another primitive species ripe for conquest. Their territory will make a fine addition to the Empire." The scanning beam continued to probe deeper into the Soul's Pride. It passed through the outer armor and into the ship's internal systems. The Vorthak technology was advanced, capable of mapping every circuit and every power conduit in the human vessel. But as the scan reached the deeper levels of the ship, something unexpected happened. Hidden deep within the ship's computer core, systems that had been dormant for years began to wake up. The alien scan was acting like a key, unlocking doors that had been sealed since the ship was built. Hyunwoo noticed it first. "Captain, something's happening. Systems I've never seen before are coming online. Power levels are rising throughout the ship." Dongwu sat up straighter. "What kind of systems?" "I don't know, sir. They're not in any of our technical manuals. It's like the ship has hidden capabilities that even we don't know about." On his tactical display, Somin watched as new weapon systems appeared on her screen. Weapons that had never been there before. Defense systems that were beyond anything in the human fleet's standard equipment. "Sir," she said in a quiet voice, "our weapons loadout just changed. I'm showing capabilities that shouldn't exist." Yejin's station was lighting up with new communication channels. "Captain, I'm receiving data streams from unknown sources. The ship's computers are translating languages I've never heard of." Dongwu felt a chill run down his spine. The Soul's Pride was one of humanity's newest battleships, built with the most advanced technology Earth could produce. But everyone knew there were secrets in its construction. Rumors of strange materials found on Mars. Technologies that human scientists didn't fully understand but had somehow learned to use. On the Shadow Hunter, Kethvar was still happily scanning away, unaware that anything had changed. The human ship looked the same from the outside. His sensors still showed the same primitive systems he had detected before. "Sir, scan complete," he reported. "Full technical specifications downloaded. This species poses no threat to the Empire. I recommend we proceed with standard conquest protocols." Veltar was pleased. Another easy victory for the Vorthak Empire. "Excellent work. Begin jamming their communications and prepare boarding pods. We'll take this ship intact and use it to learn more about their species." But as he gave the order, something strange happened. The human ship, which had been dark and quiet, suddenly came alive. Lights began appearing along its hull. Energy readings spiked across all frequencies. What had looked like a sleeping giant was waking up. "Sir," Kethvar said, his voice uncertain for the first time, "I'm reading massive power increases from the alien vessel. Their energy output just increased by a factor of 10. Veltar frowned. "That's impossible. Your scan showed primitive fusion reactors. They can't generate that much power." On the Soul's Pride, Dongwu was trying to understand what was happening to his ship. New displays were appearing on every station. Systems were activating that had been hidden in the ship's deepest levels. "Captain," Hyunwoo called out, his voice filled with wonder, "I think our scan woke something up. The ship has capabilities we never knew about. It's like it was waiting for something to activate it." So Min looked up from her tactical station with wide eyes. "Sir, our weapons are showing power levels that should be impossible. And I'm detecting similar energy signatures from other human ships across the fleet. Something is connecting us all together." Ye-Jin's hands flew over her communication controls. "Captain, I'm receiving messages from Earth Command. They're reporting the same thing happening on ships throughout the fleet. Every vessel with the new technology is experiencing the same awakening." Dongwu realized that humanity was about to discover something that would change everything. The Vorthak scan, meant to reveal human weakness, had instead awakened something that had been sleeping in their ships, something that connected them to forces they had never imagined. As both ships faced each other in the darkness of space, neither captain fully understood what had just been set in motion. The Vorthak believed they had found easy prey. The humans were discovering they were part of something much larger than they had ever dreamed. The scan was complete, but its consequences were just beginning. The data kept flowing into the Soul's Pride. Every second brought new information about the galaxy that humanity had never known existed. Ye-Jin worked frantically to process the communications, while her captain watched the transformation of his ship with growing amazement and concern. "Captain," Ye-Jin said, her voice filled with wonder, "I'm getting the history of the predecessor network. Sir, this is incredible. The predecessors were an ancient race that existed millions of years ago. They traveled the galaxy, but not to conquer. They were explorers and protectors." Dongwu leaned forward. "What happened to them?" "According to these records, they evolved beyond physical form. But before they left, they created this network to protect younger species from aggressive empires like the Vorthak." So-Min looked up from her tactical station. "Captain, the network is showing me tactical data about the Vorthak Empire. Their military capabilities, their ship designs, their standard attack patterns. It's like having access to their complete military database. How is that possible?" "The network has been watching them, sir. Every time the Vorthak scan a ship or planet, they create a connection. They've been unknowingly feeding information to the network for centuries." Hyunwoo made a startling discovery at his engineering station. "Captain, the network isn't just giving us information. It's upgrading our ship in real time. New systems are being installed at the quantum level. Our hull is becoming stronger. Our engines are becoming more efficient. Is it safe?" "More than safe, sir. The network seems to understand our technology better than we do. It's improving everything without changing the basic systems we're familiar with." Across space, the Shadow Hunter was experiencing problems. Captain Veltar paced his bridge as his crew reported system failures throughout the ship. "Sir," Kethvar called out, "our weapons targeting system just went offline, and our shield generators are showing power fluctuations." "How is that possible? We haven't been hit by anything." "I don't know, sir. It's like our systems are developing faults on their own." What the Vorthak didn't realize was that their scan of the Soul's Pride had created a two-way connection. While they had been reading human technology, the network had been reading theirs. And now it was using that information to introduce subtle failures into Vorthak systems. On the Soul's Pride, the crew was learning about their new role in the galaxy. The network was sending them information about dozens of species that the Vorthak had conquered or enslaved. "Captain," Yejin reported. The network is showing me worlds where billions of beings are suffering under Vorthak rule. Species that were destroyed just because the Vorthak considered them inferior. Dongwu felt anger building inside him. The Vorthak weren't just another alien species. They were destroyers of civilizations. The kind of evil that the predecessor network had been designed to stop. Sir, Somin said, the network is offering us tactical options. We could disable the Vorthak ship easily, or we could do much more. The network has the power to shut down their entire empire. Show me. The main screen displayed a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked Vorthak territory, covering hundreds of worlds. Blue lines showed the network's connections, reaching into every corner of Vorthak space. The Vorthak Empire depends on technology, Somin explained. Their ships, their weapons, their life support systems. The network can interfere with all of it. We could shut down their entire civilization without firing a shot. Yunwu looked troubled. Captain, that would mean billions of Vorthak deaths. Not just their military, but civilians too. Dongwu nodded. The power to end an entire empire was incredible, but it came with moral implications that made him uncomfortable. The predecessors had given humanity this power, but how they used it would define what kind of species they were. What does the network recommend? He asked. Yejin studied her displays. The network doesn't make recommendations, sir. It provides options and lets each species choose their own path, but it does provide examples of how other species have handled similar situations. Show me. The screen displayed historical records. Species after species had faced aggressive empires. Some had chosen to destroy their enemies completely. Others had found ways to disable them without genocide. The network had supported both approaches depending on what each species decided was right. The network judges us by our choices. Yejin continued. Species that use its power for conquest lose access to it, but species that use it for defense and protection gain even greater capabilities. On the Shadowhunter, the situation was getting worse. More systems were failing every minute. Their engines were running at reduced power. Their communications were filled with static. Captain? Kethvar reported frantically. I'm receiving reports from across the fleet. Every ship that has scanned human vessels is experiencing similar problems. Veltar felt fear for the first time in his long military career. How many ships? Nearly half our fleet, sir. And the problems seem to be spreading to ships that haven't even been near human space. What Veltar didn't know was that the network's influence was expanding through the Vorthak's own communication systems. Every message sent between ships carried hidden code that introduced more system failures. Back on the Soul's Pride, Dongwu was making the most important decision of his career. The network was waiting for humanity to choose their path. They could become the galaxy's new dominant power, or they could become its protectors. Hyunwoo, can we disable the Vorthak ship without destroying it? Easily, sir. The network can shut down their engines and weapons while leaving their life support intact. And their fleet? Same thing, Captain. We could leave them stranded but alive. Somin looked up from her station. Sir, the network is showing me something else. Other species that the Vorthak have conquered are watching this encounter. They're waiting to see what humanity does. What do you mean? If we show mercy to the Vorthak, these other species might trust us to help them gain their freedom. But if we destroy the Vorthak completely, they might fear us just as much as they feared their former masters. Dongwu understood. This wasn't just about defeating an enemy. It was about what kind of galactic civilization humanity wanted to build. The predecessors had left them a choice, and that choice would echo across the galaxy for generations. Yejin, can you open a communication channel to the Vorthak ship? Yes, sir. But should we? The network gave us power, but it also gave us knowledge. We know everything about the Vorthak Empire now. Their history, their technology, their plans. Maybe it's time they learned something about us. On the Shadowhunter, Kethvar detected the incoming communication request. Captain, the human ship is trying to contact us. Veltar was suspicious. Could be a trick. A way to plant some kind of virus in our systems. Sir, with respect, our systems are already failing. Maybe we should hear what they have to say. Veltar reluctantly agreed. The main screen activated, showing the bridge of the human ship. Captain Dongwu sat calmly in his command chair, looking directly at the camera. Captain Veltar, Dongwu said in perfect Vorthak language, your scanning of our vessel has had unexpected consequences. Veltar was shocked that the human knew his name and could speak his language. How do you know our language? How do you know my name? Your scan connected us to systems you don't understand. We now know everything about your empire, your history, your conquests, the species you've destroyed. Impossible. You're a primitive species, Dongwu smiled sadly. We thought so too, but we've learned that we're part of something much larger, something that has been watching the Vorthak Empire for a very long time. On his own bridge, Kethavar whispered to his captain, "Sir, our sensors are showing massive energy buildups throughout human space. Every ship in their fleet is showing power levels that shouldn't exist." Veltar realized that his empire had made a terrible mistake. They had awakened something that had been sleeping in human space, something that now threatened everything the Vorthak had built. "What do you want?" he asked. Dongwu's expression remained calm. "We want the same thing the predecessors wanted: peace, freedom for all species, an end to conquest and slavery. And if we refuse, then you'll discover what happens when an ancient defense network decides that your empire is too dangerous to exist." The communication ended, leaving both captains to contemplate the future. The Vorthak Empire's days of easy conquest were over. Humanity had inherited the role of galactic protector, and they were about to reshape the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The Vorthak High Command meeting hall was filled with panic. Fleet admirals and military commanders gathered around a massive holographic display, showing the Empire's territory. Red warning lights blinked across hundreds of worlds as reports of system failures poured in from across their space. Supreme Admiral Korath slammed his 4 fists on the control panel. "How is this possible? Our technology is the most advanced in the galaxy. How can a primitive species cause this much damage?" Admiral Vexus, the Empire's chief scientist, studied the data with growing fear. "Sir, it's not just damage. It's like something is rewriting our technology from the inside. Our own systems are turning against us, the humans. No, sir. This is beyond what any single species could accomplish. Our intelligence reports suggest the humans have somehow gained access to technology far older and more advanced than anything we've ever encountered." On the Soul's Pride, Captain Dongwu was struggling with the weight of the decision before him. The network had shown him the full scope of its power. He could end the Vorthak Empire with a thought, but the moral implications were staggering. "Captain," So-Min reported, "the network is giving me real-time updates on the Vorthak fleet. Half their ships are already disabled. Their weapons are offline, their shields are down. They're helpless." Hyunwoo looked up from his engineering station with concern. "Sir, the network is asking for our decision. It can continue disabling their ships, or it can go further. Much further. What does further mean? Complete system shutdown across their entire empire. Not just military ships, but civilian infrastructure too. Their power grids, their food production systems, their hospitals, everything." Dongwu felt sick. That would kill billions of innocent people. "The network doesn't see them as innocent, sir. According to its records, the Vorthak have committed genocide against dozens of species. It considers their entire civilization to be a threat." Yejin interrupted from her communication station. "Captain, I'm receiving messages from across the galaxy. Species that the Vorthak conquered are sending us communications. They're begging us to free them. Show me." The main screen displayed dozens of alien faces. Some were humanoid, others were completely foreign, but they all shared the same expression of desperate hope. One of them, a blue-skinned being with large eyes, spoke directly to the camera. "Children of Earth, we have watched your encounter with the Vorthak. We have suffered under their rule for 300 years. Please help us regain our freedom." Another alien, this one covered in scales, added his voice. "The Vorthak destroyed my homeworld when we refused to surrender. Only a few thousand of my people survive as slaves. We beg you to stop them." So-Min watched the tactical display as more information flowed in. "Captain, the network is showing me the locations of all the concentration camps, slave worlds, and prison planets in Vorthak territory. There are billions of beings suffering under their control." Dongwu realized that this wasn't just about defeating an enemy. It was about liberating an entire section of the galaxy. But the method mattered. How humanity handled this situation would determine what kind of galactic power they became. On the Shadowhunter, Captain Veltar was receiving frantic reports from across the Empire. His own ship was barely functional, held together by emergency systems that could fail at any moment. "Sir," Kethavar reported, "High Command is ordering all available ships to attack Earth immediately. They believe that if we can destroy the human homeworld, we can stop whatever is happening to our fleet." Veltar laughed bitterly. "Attack them with what?" Half our ships can't even move, and the other half are losing systems every hour. The Supreme Admiral is calling it a final desperate measure. Better to die fighting than to be slowly disabled by an enemy we don't understand. On Earth, Admiral Park Jin-ho stood in the command center of human fleet operations. Around him, technicians and officers monitored the awakening of humanity's fleet. Every ship equipped with predecessor technology was reporting incredible new capabilities. "Admiral," reported his aide, Commander Lee Bo-ra, "we're receiving communications from Vorthak High Command. They're demanding that we surrender immediately or face total destruction." Admiral Park studied the tactical displays. The Vorthak had over 5,000 ships, but the network was systematically disabling them. Still, they had enough functional vessels to cause serious damage if they reached Earth. "What's the status of our fleet?" "All ships with predecessor technology are fully operational and showing capabilities beyond our previous understanding." "But Admiral, we're talking about weapons that could destroy entire star systems. The power is incredible, but so is the responsibility." Back on the Soul's Pride, Dongwu made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "Yijin, open a channel to the network." "Channel open." "Sir." "Network, this is Captain Dongwu of the human vessel Soul's Pride. We request that you disable the Vorthak military capabilities but preserve their civilian infrastructure. We want to free their prisoners and stop their aggression, but we don't want genocide." The response came immediately, not through the speakers but directly into their minds. The voice was ancient and wise, carrying the weight of millions of years of experience. "Humans of Earth, your choice is noted. You have chosen the path of protection rather than destruction. This shows wisdom. The network will implement your decision." So-min watched her tactical display as the change began. Across Vorthak space, military ships and installations went dark. Weapons systems shut down permanently. But hospitals, schools, and civilian infrastructure remained functional. "Captain," she reported, "the network is also doing something else. It's broadcasting the truth about the Vorthak Empire to all their worlds, showing the civilian population evidence of their government's crimes. On hundreds of Vorthak worlds, ordinary citizens watched in shock as holographic displays showed them the truth about their empire, the genocide of entire species, the enslavement of billions, the destruction of peaceful civilizations. Many Vorthak had never known the true cost of their empire's expansion. They had been told they were bringing order to the galaxy, not destruction. "Sir," Hyunwoo reported, "the network is also freeing prisoners across Vorthak space. Prison ships are opening their doors. Slave worlds are having their control systems disabled. Billions of beings are regaining their freedom." Yejin's station was flooded with communications. "Captain, we're receiving thank you messages from hundreds of species. They're calling humanity the liberators of the galaxy." But Dongwu felt the weight of responsibility, not the joy of victory. "What about the Vorthak themselves? What happens to them now?" The network's voice spoke in their minds again. "The Vorthak military caste has lost their technological advantages. Their empire will collapse within days. But their people remain. They must choose what kind of civilization they want to build without the power to conquer others." On the Shadowhunter, Veltar watched his bridge go dark. Emergency power kept life support running, but everything else was offline. His crew sat in shocked silence as they realized their empire was ending. "Sir," Kethavar said quietly, "what do we do now?" Veltar had spent his entire life believing in Vorthak's superiority. Now, faced with the collapse of everything he had believed in, he felt lost. "I don't know," he admitted. The human ship was still there, still functional, still powerful beyond imagination. But it hadn't destroyed them. It had shown mercy even when it had every right to seek revenge. On Earth, Admiral Park received reports from across the galaxy. The Vorthak Empire was collapsing, but not through destruction, through the simple removal of their ability to use force against others. "Admiral," Commander Lee reported, "we're receiving surrender offers from Vorthak worlds. Some of their planets want to join a new galactic confederation. Others want independence. A few are requesting human protection. And their military? Completely neutralized. The network didn't destroy their ships, just made them permanently inoperable. The crews are alive but stranded." Admiral Park realized that humanity had inherited not just power, but responsibility for rebuilding an entire section of the galaxy. The easy part was over. Now came the hard work of building something better than what they had destroyed. On the Soul's Pride, Dongwu looked out at the stars and wondered what kind of galaxy humanity was about to help create. They had passed the network's test by choosing mercy over vengeance. But the real test was just beginning. The age of conquest was ending. The age of cooperation was about to begin, and humanity would help guide it, powered by the wisdom of an ancient race that had learned that true strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to protect. 3 months had passed since the fall of the Vorthak Empire. Captain Dongwu stood on the observation deck of the Soul's Pride, watching a sight that would have been impossible to imagine before the awakening. Ships from dozens of different species flew in formation around his vessel, all working together to deliver supplies to former Vorthak slave worlds. The galaxy had changed more in 3 months than it had in 3 centuries. The collapse of the Vorthak Empire had created a power vacuum, but instead of war and chaos, something unprecedented was happening. Species that had been enemies for generations were working together, guided by the wisdom of the predecessor network and the steady hand of humanity. "Captain," Somin called from the bridge, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Cooperation Council. The vote on the new constitution is complete." Dongwu made his way back to the bridge. The Galactic Cooperation Council was humanity's attempt to create something the galaxy had never seen before. A voluntary alliance of species based on mutual aid rather than conquest. What's the result? 237 species have voted to join the cooperation. 15 have chosen to remain independent but peaceful. And sir, the Vorthak Reformation government has requested membership. Dongwu was surprised. The Vorthak had been the last species he expected to embrace the new order. "Are we sure we can trust them?" Hyunwoo looked up from his engineering station. "Captain, the network has been monitoring their progress. The Vorthak civilian government that took power after the military collapse has been working to make amends. They've turned over all their prison records, freed every slave they held, and offered reparations to the species they conquered. What about their military officers? Most of them are in exile on remote worlds. Some, like Captain Veltar, have actually requested to serve in the cooperation fleet as a way to make up for their past actions." Dongwu thought about Veltar. The former Vorthak captain had surrendered his ship peacefully and had spent the last 3 months helping to coordinate the rescue of prisoners from Vorthak facilities. It was a remarkable transformation. Yejin interrupted his thoughts. "Captain, we're receiving a personal message from Admiral Park on Earth. The President wants to speak with you." The main screen activated, showing not just Admiral Park but President Kim Soo-jin herself. Behind them, Dongwu could see the Earth's new orbital stations, built with predecessor technology and serving as coordination centers for the growing galactic cooperation. "Captain Dongwu," the President said, "congratulations on another successful mission. The refugee resettlement on New Vorthak Prime is proceeding smoothly." "Thank you, Madam President. The former prisoners are adapting well to freedom, though many still need psychological support after decades of slavery. That's why I'm calling. The Cooperation Council has approved the establishment of the Healing Centers project. We're going to build rehabilitation facilities on 100 worlds to help the former prisoners adjust to free life. The network has offered to provide advanced medical technology." Admiral Park leaned forward. "Captain, there's something else. The network has been showing us data about other regions of the galaxy. The Vorthak weren't the only aggressive empire out there. There are 3 other major threat civilizations and dozens of smaller ones." Dongwu felt a familiar weight of responsibility. "Are they planning to attack us?" "Not yet. But they're watching what we've built here. Some are impressed by what we've accomplished. Others see us as a threat to their own empires." President Kim's expression grew serious. "The network has offered to extend its protection to any species that joins the cooperation and follows our principles of peaceful coexistence. But it won't force anyone to change. That's up to us. What do you need from me, Madam President?" "The Council is forming a new fleet division, the Cooperation Diplomatic Corps. We want you to command it. Your job would be to make contact with other species, offer them membership in the cooperation, and help them transition away from conquest-based civilizations." Somin looked excited at the prospect. The cooperation fleet was already the most advanced in the galaxy, thanks to predecessor technology. But more importantly, it represented something new, a military force dedicated to protection rather than conquest. "Captain," Hyunwoo added, "the network has been upgrading our ships even further. We now have technology that can disable entire fleets without harming their crews. We could offer other empires the same choice we offered the Vorthak: change or become irrelevant. Yejin had been monitoring galactic communications. "Sir, I'm receiving messages from species in the Krell Empire region. They're asking for help. The Krell have been expanding aggressively just like the Vorthak used to." Dongwu realized that humanity's work was far from over. The fall of the Vorthak Empire had been just the beginning. There were still billions of beings suffering under other aggressive civilizations. "Madam President, I accept the assignment, but I want to make something clear. We don't force change on anyone. We offer alternatives and let them choose. That's exactly why you're the right person for the job, Captain." The transmission ended, and Dongwu looked around his bridge at the crew that had shared this incredible journey with him. They had gone from a simple patrol mission to becoming the guardians of galactic peace. "So Min, what's our current status?" "All systems optimal, sir. The predecessor upgrades are working perfectly. We could probably handle an entire enemy fleet by ourselves now. But we won't have to," Hyunwoo added. "The cooperation fleet now has over 500 ships from different species, all working together." Yejin smiled as she worked at her station. "Captain, I'm receiving congratulations from all across the galaxy. The species we helped liberate are thriving. The Zalari have established a new art colony. The Micron are sharing their advanced mathematics with everyone. The Thorian have opened their meditation centers to all species." Dongwu felt proud of what they had accomplished. The galaxy was becoming a place of cooperation instead of conquest. But he also knew that their success would attract attention from those who preferred the old ways. "Set course for the Krell border region," he ordered. "Let's see if we can convince another empire that cooperation is better than conquest." As the Soul's Pride jumped to hyperspace, accompanied by ships from a dozen different species, Dongwu reflected on how much had changed since that first encounter with the Vorthak. The alien scan that was supposed to reveal human weakness had instead awakened humanity's greatest strength: their ability to build bridges instead of walls. The network spoke in his mind one final time. "Children of Earth, you have proven yourselves worthy heirs to the predecessor legacy. You have shown that true power comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to protect and unite. The galaxy is safer because of your choices. In the depths of space, on a disabled Vorthak prison ship that was now a refugee transport, former Captain Veltar worked alongside human engineers to convert the vessel into a mobile hospital. He had lost everything he once believed in, but he had gained something more valuable: the chance to build something better. The age of conquest was over. The age of cooperation had begun, and throughout the galaxy, billions of beings were discovering what it meant to be free, to choose their own destiny, and to work together toward a better future. The scan that changed everything had revealed the truth: that the greatest strength in the universe wasn't superior weapons or advanced technology. It was the wisdom to know when to use power and when to show mercy. Humanity had passed that test, and in doing so, they had inherited not just the tools to protect the galaxy, but the responsibility to guide it toward peace. The stars that had once been filled with the ships of conquest now carried the vessels of cooperation, exploration, and hope. And at the center of it all, the human ships that had started this transformation continued their mission, not to rule the galaxy, but to help it heal and grow into something worthy of the ancient civilization that had made it all possible. The network's greatest gift to humanity hadn't been advanced technology or powerful weapons. It had been trust. Trust that they would make the right choices when faced with ultimate power, and in proving themselves worthy of that trust, humanity had helped create a galaxy where such trust could flourish among all species. The blunder that cost the Vorthak Empire everything had given the galaxy something infinitely more valuable: hope for a peaceful future among the stars.